the narc, the egg donor, the sperm donor, okay, the oven, whatever you want to call these things. One thing they have in common, one thing that they all do, okay, and I'm sure we can all relate to this. They prime you. They prime you, they condition you, they try to convince you that you deserve abuse, so that when they give you abuse, when they are abusive toward you, you are more primed to accept it. Let me say that again in a better way. Okay? They, in a sense, groom you into thinking that you are a terrible little person as a child, so that when they do abuse you, there won't be a sense of righteous indignation like, hey, I don't deserve this treatment. No, because they've already primed you into being a bad person. I'm going to explain why. Or thinking that you're a bad person. And I'm going to explain why and how. Why? The why is pretty damn obvious. You know you're not supposed to abuse your kids, but you're going to do so anyway. And the way to shut the person up is to make them feel like a bad person who deserved it in the first place. So that's the why. It's very simple. That's the why. You see, these people don't do anything in daylight. That's why they're nice to people outside the house. That's why they're nice to coworkers. That's why they always seem to adopt wayward children who have problems with their other parents, right? They always seem to take in all these strays while treating their own kids like crap, right? They always have a project person they're working on while they're screwing with their kids, right? So the why is very obvious. It's to keep up appearances. Everything they do is to keep up appearances. Now let's talk about the how. I remember distinctly being a little kid, okay, and there was a lot of grooming, a lot of priming. But I was primed to think that I was this violent, horrible, mean-spirited, aggressive, verbally aggressive kid. The stories that my mom would tell me about my childhood, my boyhood, my babyhood. You were always fighting on the playground. You would always grab the little girl's hair and pull it. You would do this. She told me that one time, as a child, I was playing with some sort of toy, and a little white boy came up to me, and I supposedly said to him, "Oh, you can't play with this because this toy is just for black people." That's what I supposedly said. So I was a violent, racist, you know, puller of little girls' hair. So I guess a misogynist too, before I was 4 years old, according to her story. The only problem with that, and the only monkey wrench in that fucking plan, is I was described the exact opposite way by everyone else, including her. That's the thing. See, when you're a liar, it's hard to keep shit straight, ain't it? My mom told me as a little kid, I was so sensitive. If I saw someone getting hit, I would cry for them, get mad, and run over and try to attack the person that was harming them. I was described as an empath. I was described as a kind, gentle kid who was pretty quiet. Outspoken in the sense of I would speak my mind, but I think that's called being a kid. I think that's actually called not having a filter because you're new here and you don't know that you're not supposed to say that shit. So what I supposedly said to this little white boy saying, "Well, you can't play with this toy," I don't know why that would be presented to me like that's the worst thing in the world. Kids just observe and say shit. Kids say the wildest shit to people, the most insulting shit to people, and it shouldn't be taken to heart because they're kids. Once again, they're new here. They don't know. Okay, they don't know. But even if I did say that to him, we have to ask ourselves a few questions, right? Number one, who was saying that shit around me? Because that came from somewhere. If it happened, that's a big if. Okay? Don't give these people the benefit of the doubt. Always question every fucking piece of material they give you. When you find out how big of a liar these people are, it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your fucking mind. And the number one thing they can't stand is being called a liar, because they know that's exactly what that is. But getting back to the point, or they know that's exactly what they are, who said that racist shit about me so that I would say that racist shit to another kid? And then in addition to that, let's talk about the fighting on the playground that apparently I did major damage. I was a real tough guy, 3 years old. I must have killed several people. Okay, if I was throwing hands, little baby hands on the playground and pulling girls' hairs and running and giving people Indian burns and wet willies and whatever the fuck else I was supposed to have been doing, why was I doing that? Where was your parenting? Where was your supervision? Why are you allowing an obviously violent child to keep going to the playground? Don't you run the risk of being sued? Don't you run the risk of me harming someone? But what's interesting is I remember being at the park a lot. I was mostly just allowed to just sit in the sand and do my thing. Credit to her, I was in the park a lot. I don't remember the fighting. I don't remember saying racist ass shit to another kid. But if I did, I was a kid. But these things, and this goes back to the priming, was used against me as a kid. So I'm 8, hearing about the shit I did when I was 3, and I'm feeling like the world's worst racist because of some shit I said when I was 3. And she's telling me this like, I was so disappointed. I was like, bitch, I probably heard it from you. Because if there was ever a story to be told about an individual, the first thing my mom has to tell you is what race they are. Whether it's relevant to the situation or not. I don't describe people as such unless it's relevant to the situation. I'm not colorblind. I don't have a problem saying somebody's white. I don't have a problem saying somebody's black. I just don't see how it contributes to the story unless I'm trying to stereotype a situation and throw somebody in a big pile with other people. Okay? So where did I hear this shit from, and why was I a violent fuck? Normally when kids are violent like that, it's because someone's being violent with them. And that'll bring me to my next point about the lies and the priming and the grooming. Okay? My mother told me constantly as a child, as if she had to unburden herself or something. It's so wild. She told me that people would come up to her almost everywhere she went, looking at my face, because I always used to fall and have accidents. She told me that people would come up to her, look at her, give her the worst look in the world, bend down and say, "Are you okay? You can tell me if you're not okay." Because people were concerned for me. She told me that this happened several times. Why am I walking around with a bruised up, fucked up face all the time, on top of being a kid who was born with a ventral septal defect, which is a hole in my heart? Why am I being allowed to hurt myself like that? Where's your mothering skills? Where's your fucking supervision? The biggest thing you do for a child is keep your eyes on them. How hard is that? So that was the first priming of, I never beat you. It just, people just always came up to me and said that. I never did anything to you. And then the little bullshit stories that made no sense. Do you know this woman, my narc mother, do you know this woman told me that when I was 2 or 3 years old, okay, I fell down my grandmother's stone steps. My grandmother had a wraparound porch with stone steps, okay, in the front of it. And this woman's story, this narc story, this egg donor's fucking story, this oven story, is that what I did was I waddled my little 2-3-year-old ass into my grandmother's kitchen with the linoleum floor, okay, and somebody's skateboard was randomly just in the kitchen on the floor, which never would have happened because you didn't leave shit in the middle of my grandma's kitchen floor unless you wanted problems. You didn't leave nothing on her floor. You didn't leave a dish in that sink unless you wanted problems. So I already know nobody's just gonna leave toys around. Okay, Miss Ann Margaret didn't play that shit. So there was no skateboard left, but this is a story, so let's go along with the story. So I waddled my little a toddler ass into the kitchen with the skateboard, which again never would happen. I got on said skateboard, okay? I then be pushed off with one foot as one does on a skateboard, okay? I then traveled out the kitchen, down the hallway, and this is old school, and my grandma still had her 70s fucking decor up. So I go through the beads, okay? I go through the beads, and you got the black Jesus on the wall here, and the Soul Train picture on the wall here. Yeah, it's real black. And I'm going down the hall, top speed on this thing that I've maintained balance on somehow. And then I enter the living room. And I'll tell you what my grandmother's living room consisted of. Okay, to the left, you had shag, thick-ass carpet, again, 70s type shit that she still had like 20, damn, going on 30 years later. All right? So shag, thick-ass carpet. And then to the right of that, okay, on the other side of the little table in the middle was a floor-mounted heater with grating on it. Okay, so you're not getting a skateboard smoothly across any of that and avoiding the table and going around and doing some Tony Hawk shit when you're 2 or 3. I sucked at skateboarding when I was a teenager. I doubt I was that good as a child. So the story continues. So I make it past the shag carpet. I don't get stuck in the grating of the fucking heater, right? I make it to the porch. Well, no, fuck that. First of all, I open the door. Because in this story, the door was open. There are toddlers in the house. There are babies in the house. There are children in the house. But for some fucking unknown fucking reason, the door was left wide open. Okay? Both the door and the screen door, right? No. The story is I opened them. I'm skateboarding, I'm balancing on the skateboard, I'm opening the door, I'm opening the screen, then I'm pushing off again, and then I hit that porch, and then right off that porch I go, and I bounce down those stone steps. And that was a story that was told to me as if it made any kind of sense, and it was told to me at the right time because I was a kid, and the only thing I thought was cool. I stole a skateboard. Like, I thought that shit was cool. Now, as a 40-year-old man who understands when a story makes sense and when it does not, that was absolute fucking bullshit. I don't believe the story. I don't believe that you constantly had people coming up to you about me and the condition of me if it was not abundantly clear that something was happening to this kid. I don't believe I was the biggest brawler on the playground when I was the kid who would cry if anybody got hurt, be devastated if anyone was mistreated. What she was doing was trying to impugn my character. What she was doing was trying to make me feel like I was low, like I was bad. What she was doing, really, real talk, was to make me feel the way she must have felt, the way her mother must have made her feel. And they do that to keep you under their heel. Because if I grow up thinking I'm violent and I'm evil and I'm bad and I'm this, well, then it makes sense that I should question my motives when I get mad, because clearly I'm an angry guy and I just do angry things. And there's no possible reason that, let's say I was, once again, I know kids act out. There is no reason why I would be violent. It's not as though anyone was violent toward me. Because a woman who would set their kid up to possibly get assaulted in an inappropriate way by an adult. A mother who would, be intimate in full view of her kids. A mother who would sue everybody in the world. A mother who would lie about her ex. having an incestuous relationship with his daughter and producing a child from it. You know, a mother who would do those things, she couldn't possibly be capable of lying or being violent to her child, whom she clearly did not want. They groom you to make you feel like you deserve the abuse so that you never stand up for yourself, so that you never question their motives. Because if you feel like you are wrong and inherently broken, then they can do whatever they want to do, and they will never ever be called to the mat for it. And that's what they want. They don't want to be good people. They want to do fucked up shit and be allowed to do fucked up shit in perpetuity. Mostly fucked up shit to you, because it gives them pleasure. You may not want to hear that. It gives them pleasure. So when you think about all the negative shit you say to yourself in your head on a day-to-day basis about how you're a good person, you're a bad person, or how you feel like you can't be trusted or you can't trust yourself or this or that, you have to understand that comes from someplace. None of us are born broken. None of us are born insecure and incomplete. We're made that way. They prime you. They groom you. They do it on purpose. It is calculated. It is deliberate. And that is why we go no contact.